Okay, somebody suggested you saw Supatese doing a reaction video to Asmongold doing a reaction to Bellular doing a reaction. Should we do that? Should I react to Supatese reacting to Asmongold reacting to Bellular?
Just finished watching Asmongold's video, The War Within is Dead, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Now, obviously, I think that this title and thumbnail is entirely clickbait.
What? What are you talking about?
As you know, saying that World of Warcraft is dying or dead and being hyperbolic is just a really good way to get clicks, and people have been saying that for a really long time. One of the first things that I want to say to kind of counter this argument is that right now, with the War Within, we are seeing stuff that we would never normally see in the past. They are sharing information that is literally pre-alpha, interviewing players from all different backgrounds, PvE, PvP, and
that is true. It's been really nice. We saw like the Jelly Beans interview. I hope I get a mage interview. I don't think that I'm going to, but it would be really cool. I want to interview the Frost Mage person.
Anything, and really garnering and interacting with the community, with interviews, being really receptive and responsive to feedback from the hero talents that they have announced. This is completely different than we've seen in other expansions with things like Conduit Energy, and then just hearing silence in Shadowlands with it rolling through, and the same types of complaints and feedback from the community being valid, but at that time being ignored. So I really wouldn't say that the War Within is dead, considering that we're getting that level of kind of transparency that we've honestly never gotten before.
Wait, why are they saying it's dead? I don't understand. I guess I should maybe watch that. He didn't explain why he's saying it's dead.
I would honestly say that it's pretty impressive. Now, with what direction they move with that feedback, you know, is entirely valid. At one point in the video, there's a lot of discussion that talks about the names of the hero talents specifically. And the main thing that I think that could be taken away as adequate feedback is that when I read one of these names for the hero talents, I really think that there should be an image of my mind, ideally from Warcraft 3 lore. I think Warcraft 3 lore and fantasy is probably some of the strongest in the Warcraft universe. So anyone that I read, something like Oracle, it's not immediately popping into my head.
That's true. He's right about that. Like for Monk, Master of Harmony. What is that? Shadowpan? Conduit of the Celestials? The mage one is okay. Sun Fury, I get that. Frostfire, I get that. Spell Slinger. I think Spellslinger could be renamed. I don't think it has a good name. Don't like it.
Some sort of image from Warcraft 3, or honestly even the World of Warcraft universe. But when I see Mountain Thane and I'm thinking of the dwarves thunderclapping and heroic leaping, there's an immediate, you know, reaction and response and imagery in my head. This is a really kind of picky thing, because again, this is literally pre-alpha showcasing these things. I think these are subject to change, but I do think that it is fair that these names I think should have some relevance and should immediately trigger imagery from either Warcraft 3 or at least the World of Warcraft universe. There was a lot of time spent on talking about how they want hero skins and class skins, and Blizzard has never really promised that at any point, but they've also, you know, not promised it. I think that it's still entirely possible that hero talents or hero skins end up being a thing. I mean, they're gonna have to make these spells and abilities. We saw them
yeah, so just in case anybody's wondering what's going on, Bellular made a video and Asmongold reacted to Bellular's video, and then Supatese reacted to Asmongold's video of reacting to Bellular. And now here we are watching Supatese react to Asmongold, reacting to Bellular. So this is like 4 layers deep at this point, but yeah.
Just update the animations for spells from Shadowlands, and a lot of them look really cool with the new upgraded graphics. So, I mean, it is in my hopes or something like a Dark Ranger that we're going to get shadow arrows, and we're going to get that Sylvanas essence really captured for that specific hero talent tree, and sort of like the physical animations that go along with it. But they haven't said that those aren't going to be a thing, and it was kind of very dismal talking about how, like, oh, that the animations would be sacrificed for gameplay, and I really don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, they've got to decide what the gameplay is going to be before they go tell the art dude, like, okay, this is what we're making, go draw it, and they're gathering the feedback for that, and it's still so early on. So
that's a really good point, Supatese. Like, I do agree with him. Like, we're in such an early stage. We don't know exactly what they have planned. I think I'd rather be, you know, optimistic about it all than pessimistic. That's really true, Supa. Augers, let's continue.
I feel like it's jumping the gun a lot in terms of conclusions for the next expansion being dead. I think the transparency has been really good so far for War Within, considering we're still so early out, and they're interacting with such a wide variety of
Look at Asmongold's face.
As far as interviews go, that I was honestly really impressed with. So I kind of disagreed with that. Valid feedback towards the names of the trees. Disagreed with the fact that, we're probably going to get some at least spell animations, I would think, with a lot of the things that I've read through so far. It would be strange because there's passives that shoot like shadow arrows passively and stuff, and there's going to be dark hounds. Like, they got to animate that stuff. So to say that that's not going to be there, it's kind of jumping the gun a little bit too soon. The next big kind of gripe from this video so far is...
Oh my god, we're going to be talking about add-ons. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Abster says, wondering why WoW is hated by so many even before an expansion comes out. Maybe it has something to do with the content creators making a video saying the game is dead before we even have an alpha. Yeah. So maybe in this video, I'll say the War Within is alive and well, and we love it. That's going to be my title. We'll see how that does.
As far as the War Within is dead, wasn't really necessarily even a criticism towards the next expansion. It was more like a personal criticism towards add-ons in World of Warcraft and the level of influence that add-ons have on the game as far as competitive play. Now, the best analogy that I can give for, what I would consider to be a good game or something good for the War Within is to compare World of Warcraft to a gym, and you can say, oh, that's cringe or whatever, but,
We're going to pause that. Somebody asked me, what is my opinion on add-ons? Before we hear Supatiz's opinion, my opinion on add-ons is we've gone too far. I think there's some things that aren't included in the base UI, and keep in mind, when I say this, I know that I am a minority. There is a lot... When I put out my thoughts and opinions on add-ons in general, very publicly, I got a lot of backlash from some of the higher rated Mythic Plusers and people that do the Race to World first. They love add-ons. As a my I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be that general, but I got the feeling that they love add-ons. They love add-ons. They love being able to customize their UI, blah 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 blah. And I think that's cool. I think that's one of the strengths of WoW. You can have a custom UI. You can make it look the way you want, but I think the amount of information that's available in the game and the fact that things like raids are actually designed around people having add-ons gets really weird, because then the experience is from a base, the game is not that, it's not good. If the game is literally designed for people to have weak auras and all these add-ons, people that don't have them are just screwed. So my opinion on add-ons is we've gone way too far. I'd like to dial it back. I'll show you a tweet. I'll show you an interesting tweet, and you guys can tell me how you feel about this. All right. It was a tweet by Big Moran, and on his Twitter, he showed a comparison of add-ons in current WoW. So this is Snuts and Cataclysm, okay? So this was the UI of Snuts and Cataclysm. He had his arena frames, he had a focus frame, his party frames. There's nothing crazy. It's just a UI. Now, do I think that they could add more to this? Yes. I think that trinket trackers are good. I actually like diminishing return trackers. Yeah, things like that I think are nice. Now let's continue. And we'll see the other screenshot. This is Chanimals UI. Okay, so on Chanimals UI, you can see a few different things. There's a few things being tracked, and Chanimals UI isn't even that bad. I need to see P makes, you know what I mean? But yeah, so this is where I think it's gotten a little bit crazy. The things that you can track, I think, is nuts. And Chanimals UI isn't even that bad in this particular screenshot, but I think just visually it's cluttering. It can be confusing for new players, blah blah blah. So I think, but the thing is, it's never going to happen. That's what the truth is. We've opened up Pandora's box. We're living in a world of honking and horns and whistles and buttons flashing all over the place. And oh, Healing Tide totem dropped. Go kill it. Everybody has fully embraced Gladiator Losa. This is going to sound like an old boomer take, but back in the day, if you used Gladiator Losa, you were considered a giant noob. And now it's an arms race to have the most information possible. Like everybody wants Super Saiyan, Gladiator, Losa on their UI. They want to be able to track everything, every single ability, every diminishing return. In fact, every single global. A lot of players use add-ons to track literally every global somebody uses, you know? So we're in like fucking crazy, futuristic craziness. But the problem is it creates an arms race where if you're someone that doesn't use if you don't use these things, you suck. Like my UI is something that I try to mix in like the most important things I absolutely need, but I don't want to do too much because I think it makes watching the game worse. Like I think these crazy UIs are actually less pleasant to watch. And the most important thing to me is that people enjoy the stream. So I kind of nerf myself a little bit, but yeah, it feels bad. Like if I was to compete again, I'd have to redo my whole UI. I would redo everything. I'd go fucking crazy because it's absolutely necessary. But anyways, yeah, that's my thoughts. Let's listen to Super T's.
You go into World of Warcraft, you're trying to power up your character, you're trying to get stronger. You know, every time you're logging in, you go in the gym, it's the same thing. So if you have a gym that only has 5-pound dumbbells, so it's only for beginners, and they're lifting those 5-pound dumbbells, you know, that's going to be pretty decent for the people that are lifting the 5-pound dumbbells. But you
can I turn up Super T's? I can, yeah. Super T's he always has the funniest analogies. All right.
don't really have anywhere to grow or anywhere to advance or challenge yourself. So it's honestly not the best gym, right? You'd ideally want a gym that has 5-pound dumbbells leading all the way up until it's impossible to move the dumbbells, really, right? Because you'd want that level of progression available to you. So there was a lot of arguments in this that retail WoW is too complex, which could be the equivalent of, let's say, lifting bicep curling 100-pound dumbbells or something, and that's intimidating. But I don't know if that's necessarily true, because you can start World of Warcraft in Raid Finder, progress into normal, progress into heroic, progress into mythic. Mythic keystones are, start at level 1 and then go up to what, like 30 plus, mid 30s or something like that at the highest level in terms of mythic plus. You don't have to start curling the 100s. You start at the keystone level 1s and you're curling the 5s and you work through and you get better. I mean, for me personally in World of Warcraft, when I started playing, I had no idea what I was doing. I probably wasn't even picking up the dumbbell. I was probably looking like one of those kind of weird janky workouts that you'd probably see on a TikTok or something.
Those are my favorite workouts. Like, what is he saying? Maxon says, everyone trying to be jacked. I just want to lift the 5-pound dumbbells.
Wandering around in World of Warcraft figuring out my place for like years, and that was great. It just had this expansive universe that you can progress through at your own pace, and that's still all available in the game. So as far as like the over complexity, it's going to take you a while to learn it, but the advantages of that means that you've got places to grow and get better at the game and advance and challenge yourself and hopefully make friends along that way in that journey.
I love friends. Like, listen, I kind of get what Super T's is saying. Like, you don't necessarily need to start with all the add-ons, but the problem is you're at a big disadvantage. And like, I think a different analogy you could use is like in a first-person shooter. So you take like Counter-Strike, for example. How much does Counter-Strike change if everybody has map hack? Like, if literally everybody in the game has map hack, the new standard is map hack. Like, and it's technically fair. Everybody can see everybody through the walls. Everybody can see everybody's HP. Things like that. It's not the same. I think it is the same. I think going from a base UI that doesn't track diminishing returns, doesn't track trinkets, doesn't track cooldowns, doesn't track shadow step kick, doesn't track, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Weak aura is going off when the enemy healer is drinking, or when the enemy druid has shadow meld. All of those things, I think it's the equivalent of map hack. I sincerely do, 100%. So it's like, you can play without map hack if you want, but you're going to be kind of screwed.
Because a lot of those friends, at least for me, those journeys have been some of the best friends I've ever really had. So I kind of disagree with that in a sense. Now to the add-ons specifically. Now there could be certain add-ons that function like wrist wraps in the gym that, help make your wrists straight, and maybe chalk to help out your grip so that the bar isn't sliding out of your hand too much. And there are some add-ons that are like that, which kind of reorganize the information on your screen, maybe so it's in an area that you can focus on better. And I feel like that level of customization isn't necessarily inherently bad.
No, I agree. I think the base UI in WoW is actually not good. Like, it got better this expansion, but I understand what he's saying 100%. Like, I'm trying to think of like good examples. Like even when you're tracking like important buffs, I feel like you should be able to literally go into the UI and decide what you want to track versus not track. You know what I mean? Like nobody can make sense of this. Like even in this video, what we're watching right now, look at this. Even in this video that we're watching right now, like nobody who understands this. Even the best players in the game are like, okay, I can't make any sense of what the hell this is. So that's why people use, you know, things like tell me when or weak auras to track actual important information and buffs. And I think that that could be a lot better in WoW.
Think like automation, when you're starting to move into like botting and third-party programs running the game for you, you've probably gone too far, right? Like if there's literally a machine moving the bar for you and you're no longer interacting with the bar at the gym, you've probably crossed the threshold from chalk and wrist wraps and these types of add-ons that you can use to assist or improve your lift, or maybe a belt to be able to tighten up your core or something like that, into, you know, a realm that's too far gone. I would debate whether or not weak auras is that problem, but again, this is something that's, you know, a problem for somebody who's playing at a keystone level 30 where this is all going to be mandatory. But when you're starting in Raid Finder, you don't need these add-ons. When you're starting at level 1 keystones, you really don't need these add-ons. When you're starting out at the beginning stage, it's absolutely not necessary whatsoever. And then as you get, you know, more used to the game modes, you might want to start adopting a few of these things to try and help you.
For his analogy, add-ons, we are like steroids. Yeah, I guess the problem is like even within like what I'm seeing from Asmongold's analogy, where it says bad players, no add-ons. Like there's a level to that, right? Like you have no add-ons, you're going to be kind of at a certain spot, and then when you have add-ons, everything becomes easier, right? So by not having add-ons, maybe you're -6 keystones. I don't really know. Maybe you're like in arena, you're -400 rating compared to what you would be with add-ons, or 200 or 300, or, you know, -5 keystones or whatever it is. You're just kind of intentionally nerfing yourself. Like you can play without it, and there's players that do and succeed, like Peekaboo. But like Peekaboo's, if everybody on, I'll tell you this right now, if everybody on the move had Peekaboo's UI, they would struggle way harder. They would not have the same success. If every single person on the move had the same UI as Peekaboo and they couldn't like fill him in during some of those important moments, they would not have even close to the same success.
You out on your journey, but there are people who play with no add-ons. I know, at least for PvP, that Peekaboo plays pretty much with no add-ons. He's a competitive level.
How did I know he was going to say that?
Player, even Asmongold, you know, credits him a lot to being such a fantastic and amazing player. And for the most part, he plays with no add-ons, and he's able to compete against people who are playing, you know, on the other side of the spectrum, like someone like Mez, who's, you know, notoriously been claimed for running like the spaceship UI, and he's running with those full add-ons, and that's helping him out and it's assisting him. Maybe it is too far gone. I think there is some debate with that, like how many of these add-ons are necessary. I feel like weak auras is kind of like where the line is, like pushing it too far. I'd say like Gladius, reorganizing your frames is nice. Tracking diminishing returns seems to be nice. Tracking a couple of cooldowns is nice. But then weak auras, where they start popping up on the screen, sounding foghorns, audio, like altering audio files, it starts to become a little bit kind of pushing it on that line.
I agree. Flasher, thanks for the 5-month reset, man. I really appreciate that, brother.
Which I could agree with as far as add-ons are concerned, but really, is that like the main deterrent for new players to jump in? Because again, I didn't have any of the right add-ons, but as I started, you know, pushing through, getting into more serious raiding through at the end of TBC or Wrath of the Lich King, I started wanting to try and get these to try and hone in my skills, same way that you'd maybe get a belt or wrist wraps at the gym. So, you know, some add-ons I think are fine. I do think it starts to push to...
I do think with the moment he's talking about, like in the earlier expansions, add-ons were not nearly as required. Like even just looking at the game visually, it made way more sense. Like you didn't have to track as much. Like you could actually get away with having no add-ons in TBC and Wrath, and it was completely fine. Because like the game was not nearly as complex, and there wasn't nearly as much visual craziness going on. You know, like what's an example? Like Essence Break. Essence Break for Demon Hunters, or like things like tracking Alpha Tiger from a Windwalker Monk. They don't really have good visual cues, but if you don't notice them, you're dead, you know?
some extremes, but I think World of Warcraft benefits from the fact that it has a giant variety of content offered to you. You can just be that casual player that's just wandering around collecting mounts and maybe a couple of transmogs, and then you wander your way into a dungeon, and then you level up the difficulty of that, and maybe somebody recommends a battleground and it's casual, and then you advance into maybe some rated content, and your journey can be varied. And I think World of Warcraft actually does a pretty remarkable job of that. I would likely attest, player activity or the amount of people that are playing World of Warcraft more so to this kind of like hype train culture that we've got in gaming, where game comes out, it's super hype, everybody's playing it. Pal World, I think, what was that? I don't know the exact numbers, somewhere in the millions of players for Pal World, but then now a few months later it's only at like 200,000, and everybody's like, Pal World is dead. And then it's like, what, are we gonna make videos about what Pal World did wrong? A lot of it is just culture, as far as like player activity and investment. And right now the culture is just really just short attention span, jumping into the next thing as soon as possible.
That is so true. And I stopped doing it, to be honest with you. Like, it actually takes a lot for me to want to buy a game, because I find myself buying games, spending $80, $90, $100 on them, and playing them for 2 days and never looking at them again, ever. So I just don't do it anymore. And like, if there's a game that really interests me, maybe I'll play it, but other than that, I have to wait at least like 2-3 weeks and see if people still like it, because 90% of the time a new game comes out, it's dead in, whatever. It's dead in 2-3 weeks. 90% of the player base falls off. Nobody's playing it anymore. They just pump and dump in every single game. So he's got a really good point about that.
And right now, Dragonflight's just in that cycle of its expansion where, there's not a lot of new content. There's not a lot of new stuff that's hyping it up to draw in that audience anymore. And I don't even know how much can be really done about that, because that's just a culture and a community thing. The same way in some sense that these add-ons are as well, because you don't necessarily need to have these add-ons. I think that I could go into these keystones after a while with 0 add-ons and be totally fine. I've competitively, played at some high levels with my friends as far as Mythic.
Let's see it. Money where your mouth is, Sid. Let's see how high you can get with 0 add-ons. I want to see it. No tracking your teammates' cooldowns. Nothing. No deadly boss. I want to see it. I want to see how high Sid can get in Mythic Plus with 0 add-ons. I think it would be awesome. Let's go, Sid.
Rating your keystones and some other expansions, and my teams would be like, you don't have DBM, are you trolling? And I'm like, I don't feel like I need it, and I managed to make through, and it's totally fine. So it's more like a culture thing too, in some sense, to think that you need to be doing that. There was a lot of talk about like how everything is for sweaty players, which I also don't really agree with, because I think you can get most of the item level of like a Mythic Raider, at like a level 15 keystone or something like that. In PvP, you get all the same item level of the gear because it's all scaled, so there's no real edge there or advantage there in that regard. So, and they just made it so the Mythic Mount is available on the other difficulties, albeit a random drop chance, but it is available. I feel like there's a lot of focus on trying to make the mid-level players have more rewards to participate in their content. So I don't think it's really all about the sweaty players, and I don't really think that it's all about the casual players. It's honestly finding a pretty fair balance at the moment for
Super Tease. This is not nearly, you can't be saying these reasonable things. This is pissing me off. I don't like this whatsoever. He's saying that there's like a fair balance. We had this conversation in my stream yesterday about like how easy it is to gear in PvP and why I like that. And one of the reasons why I have no interest in Season of Discovery is because I don't want to have to raid for gear. I don't want to raid for gear. I don't want to raid for gear. I don't want my gear to come from random drop chances. I don't want to, maybe never get it. All that good stuff. I hate it. So I'm not doing it. And I think the gearing in this expansion is pretty much as good as it can get. There's some things that I wish were a little better, like the crafting of gear. I feel like could be less annoying. But overall, I think it's really good. I've never in my life played as many alts and characters as I have now. Like, ever. Never in the history of WoW have I played a mage, a windwalker, an evoker, a shaman, resto shaman, all 3 specs of warlock, rep paladin, holy paladin, shadow priest, disc priest, resto druid, boomkin, feral druid, assassination rogue, fury warrior, arms warrior, havoc demon hunter, And then on my alt account, I have Fistweaver Monk, I have a Hunter, and I have 2 mages. And that's what I like. I like that I can just play all these different specs at like basically the end game for what I like PvP. And it's my favorite thing ever. And I don't think there's like a big barrier to get that. Like you don't have to be an insane player to get all of that done. You know, you basically just have to play and you're going to have the best gear, which I think is fantastic. So I do agree with Sid with that one.
World of Warcraft as far as the curve is concerned. So the doom and gloom in regards to this, I don't really understand with directly the next expansion, because it seems to be, to me at the moment, that there's a...
Somebody says that is a double-edged sword for me. I like for Ven's view. However, in times like BFA or others, it was still fun sometimes when there was a weapon or trinket you needed. Was from the other content in PvP. It was a lot of fun when you got it. It was. But my counterpoint to that would be there were certain items in Battle for Azeroth that were necessary, right? Like if you're a warrior, you need the what's that sword called? There's a sword that you needed, and if you're a healer, you needed like a voodoo totem and Gitaku. What I didn't like about Battle for Azeroth is you would, like in season 1, you would go into the dungeon. Maybe it took you 10 times to get the sword, and you got it. Feels good. But then a new season comes out, and you have to refarm the exact same item again. And I thought that was terrible. So it's like, okay, I already farmed this sword. Now I got to farm it again at slightly higher item level. Okay, maybe it took me 20 times. Okay, now a new season comes out, I got to do it again. And a new season comes out, I got to do it again. You're just farming the exact same item in the exact same place. It just, the only thing that's different is it's just a little higher item level, which I thought was awful. I hated that.
Huge amount of feedback that's being traded around that is all really valid. Now, if you want to talk about the current game and the current patch, maybe we could use some balance tuning. I think, you know, MDI is currently going on. I've seen a lot of like the same compositions, Demon Hunter, tanks, Shadow Priest, Fire Mage, and Mistweaver. It seems like there's like kind of like that God comp that they call it for the Mythic Plus tournament.
Buff Fire Mage.
So maybe after we see this tournament play through, they can be like, hey, we just saw the Arena tournament, we got the Mythic Plus tournament, and then maybe assess and move for class balance tuning in regards to the current game. But that's not really relevant, again, to the next expansion, which I think that this entire video was kind of like prefaced on. So I just wanted to make my reaction to it, my initial responses to it, because I'm usually pretty fair. Like my main goal is that I want the game to be good. I've invested a lot of time to it. It's provided me a lot of great experiences throughout my life, and obviously now my livelihood. So the game matters a lot to me. I want the game to be well, so I try to give it fair, honest feedback with the intent of improving it.
We love that,
I feel like this video is
we love
mostly unfair to the next expansion, because a lot of it has been crazy early access and interaction that we never got with other expansions that tended to have quite a bit of community controversy, like Battle for Azeroth or Shadowlands. So I disagree with those some sentiments. Again, like I said in the video, I think the names definitely could be more oriented towards imagery of World of Warcraft, Warcraft 3. And then this line of add-ons is like, I don't know if it'll ever actually be resolved, but it's definitely...
I'm convinced that it'll never be resolved. And I've actually given up on caring about it that much. I have my opinion. I do think it would be better without it, but I don't think it will ever change. And the primary reason I think that is because of the response I saw from raiders, and like they actually thought I was a complete moron. Like some of like the world first raiders and the people in the MDI, they actually thought I was a complete moron for suggesting that add-ons should be turned down in WoW. Like they think it's the best thing about WoW. It's the most important thing about WoW. And I was like, all right, well, I guess
a fair debate.
I don't know.
As to like where's the line, because like for music, for example, you can use auto tune that just automatically tunes your voice. You can use a lot of these add-ons that like automatically tune to where you need to stand or use things, and there's this blurry line, you know, where maybe that should be decided, like where are we crossing that threshold, and maybe something can be done. But other than that, I don't really know. I just wanted to give my initial thoughts here in response to it, because I actually think I'm actually really excited to try and hopefully the alpha is coming out soon, get into it and start testing some of these things and give some valid feedback, because I think with the culture of hype train hopping, that if we can get some really good feedback through and get some really cool iterations that draw on some really strong fantasies for the classes as far as these hero talents are concerned, that the War Within could actually be really awesome. So other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Smash the subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with everything related to World of Warcraft, and I will see you in the next one.
I like this video, you know? The War Within dead. God damn it, man. I'm going to give this video a thumbs up. I'm already subscribed to Super Tees, and I think you should do the same. And subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. But definitely subscribe to Super Tees. He's making consistent, really good content. I appreciate his thoughtfulness in this one. You know? So hopefully you guys enjoyed my reaction to Super Tees' reaction to Asmongold's reaction to Bellular. And also shout out to Asmongold and Bellular. You should probably follow their channels as well.